Hey guys, so today my assignment is to talk to you about what the circle of fifths mean, or are, or is. Yes, let's get into it. We'll talk a little bit of theory, I guess, at first as to describing what the circle of fifths is, and and then we'll explain as to how we can actually use this idea in music, especially worship music, which tends not to be too movement driven, right? It appears to be a little bit stagnant, I guess. Well, when we get into it, you'll understand a little bit more. So, what is the circle of fifths? Let's start by we'll pick a root note, right? So let's pick C as a root note to start off with. All right. So basically, if this becomes your one, right, the circle of fifths is the idea is you stack your five on top of the one. Pretty simple, right? So if this is your one, the five will be G, right? Theoretically, how you come to that conclusion is if from one you go up five notes, right? Now, this is also called the cycle of fourths because if you go down four notes using the C major scale, you actually end up on the same note, on the same five note, right? Which is the G again, going up, going down, right? Okay. So let's go through the entire circle basically, and then I'm just basically explaining to you theoretically what it is, right? It's just stacking the fifths. So let's go C. Let's stack the fifth on that. The G. Go G. Stack the fifth on that. D. Okay, we'll keep stacking. A. E. B. F sharp. C sharp. G sharp. E flat, B flat, F, and back to C. Okay. So what we did there is we went through the entire 12 notes of the musical, I guess, like scale, and we started on one note and we used the circle to come back to that same note. All right. Now this will sound a little bit different from if you were to go through it linearly or chromatically, which would sound like this. Right? So it didn't exactly sound like that. But what we did is we used the circle to go around, stacking fifths on top of fifths to come back to the same note. Now, this is where the application of it gets kind of like tricky. It's because if you noticed, I didn't although I started on the key of C, right, which we used the key of C to reach the five of its fifth. I didn't exactly stick with the key of C. Rather, I played all these other notes. In fact, I played all the notes of the musical scale to come back to C. So therefore, the application of using the circle of fifths becomes hard because you actually have to go off key to use it accurately. Now obviously, when we're doing like regular music, especially church music, like I said, which tends to be stagnant, what I mean by that is it tends to stay in one key. It's harder to play notes that go off key and then come back. Like like you could, depending on the movement of the music, but usually most of worship music, like slower paced songs, you can't exactly do that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to explain to you how I've kind of like understood and grasped this idea of the circle of fifths, and use it basically, in one key without switching keys, to understand movement basically within a song. All right. So let's imagine home. Now I know that's easy to imagine at this point because we've all been like home, and I apologize for using this example, but let's just go. Just bear with me, guys. Okay. So let's start with let's actually go to the let's use the root note A. All right. So A now is our home. All right. And any notes in the A scale, right? All of those notes are other than the note of A, right? All the other notes are, let's call them away notes, right? Or places that you go to that are not home, right? And so every time we go to all of these other notes, we always want to come back home. All right. So like so let's go A, so 7, or the 6, come back home, or the 5, or the 4, 3, 2. So you see, every time we went away from home, we always wanted to like come back and resolve. So that's what we were doing. So basically, what we're doing is we're using the scale to resolve to our resolve note is what I'm calling home note, right? Now, other than using the scale, we can also use the circle of fifths actually to resolve home, to come back home. All right. So so let's start with the natural fifth of the one, which is the 5, right? Right. So in this case, if your one is A, your fifth is E. So now there's one thing. What really interesting thing to see is whenever you do play the natural fifth of a key, it automatically wants you to come back home. Right? So if you're stacking on the fifths, this is like the closest point to for you to go somewhere and to come back home. All right. So what we'll do is we'll keep stacking on this. We'll keep stacking fifths on this using the circle of fifths till we can't actually go anymore. So we're not going to go off key. We're just going to stack the fifths till we like staying in the key, and then we'll always try to come back home. All right. So you'll see how we create a little bit of movement basically in the music. So we did the fifth, right? So now using the scale, let's go up 5 notes and see what's the fifth of the 5. Oops. Right? Which is the 2. So let's go 2, 5, 1. You see how that happens? So we have 1, 2. So we didn't use scale, but just using that movement, it almost like naturally wants to resolve back onto the 1, come back home. Right? Now this movement is actually like a really common movement, like the 2-5-1, at least in especially jazz music. So so if you go, right, it's you see it all over the place, 2-5-1 in like jazz music basically. So obviously there's other movements, but this is very common basically. So let's keep stacking. So we are on the 2 right now, right? So let's go up 5 notes for using the scale, right? And we end up on the 6. All right. So let's go 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. You see how that happens? Just naturally, you're just it wants to come back. Even though we went far away from the 1. We went to the 6, 2, 5, 1. All right. So let's keep stacking on that idea. So 6. Let's play 5 notes up. Right, and that is the 3. So we go 1. Yeah, so you see how that happened? Yeah, so we obviously went quite away from our 1, although it is pretty close to the 1, but still we still go. Yeah, so you see when I play these notes resolving on the 1, it kind of like almost sounds like it's supposed to go that way. It's like that's the road it's supposed to take, right? And it's not going through any other weird keys or anything like that, right? So let's keep stacking on that. So we have the 3, right? We end up on the 7. Okay, so let's go 1. Okay, so that's generally the basic idea. We're going to stop at the 7 because if we keep stacking on the 7, for instance, right, the next note on the above the 7, the 5th above the 7 at least would be actually the sharp 4. Now right there we're like kind of like going off key. So we don't want to we definitely don't want to do that, right? So we're just going to stop on the 7, right? Okay. Okay, so we'll just stop on the 7 there. Now, we've been only coming like making 1 our home note, but if we're doing music, like it doesn't always only stay on the 1, correct? It moves around. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to make different notes, right? Different notes, our home note, and experiment with what that sounds like. Okay, so let's make 4, for instance, our home note, right? The 4 of the key, right? So let's try to go. Let's try to use like similar movement, right? So now to the natural fifth of the 4 is the 1, actually, right? So if let's use the circle, right, to resolve on the 4. Okay, so let's go 5. Oh, look at that. Or from the 2, 2, 5, 1, 4, or 6, 2, 5, 1, 4. Yeah, see how it comes naturally? Or 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, 4, or 7, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, 4. There we go. All right. So we made 4 the home note. Now let's make another. Let's make 6, for instance, the home note, right? So 6 is the home note. Okay. So if we're going, say for instance, from the 1, we're making a movement now from the 1 to the 6. Let's try to use the circle of fifths to resolve on the 6th note, right? So if we're going 1, right, we know that the natural circle of fifth would be the 3, and then resolve on the 6. So see how that happens naturally? So let's try that again. Now let's stack another one on top of that. So we'll go. We did 7, 3, 6. 1, 7, 3, 6. So all you're doing basically, instead of just playing from the 1, 6, right? You're just creating a little bit more movement within the music to give like additional notes that are not just sporadic notes that you can play like a lick or something like that, but they're actually using the circle of fifths to come to a note that you want to come to. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to use this idea in a very like seriously a simple song. We're gonna use "Great Are You, Lord," and just the intro. I'm just gonna keep the intro looping over and over, and we'll use this idea of movement, basically the circle of fifths, to resolve to the home note that we want to. And now I'm calling the home note not just the tonic note, not the root note, but the note in the song. So the song has, right, 4, 6, 5. Okay, so now each of those notes, right, wherever they are, those I'm calling the home notes, right? So to get to there, we can do a little movement and then come there. All right, okay. So let's use the song. Okay, so the other note is, so from the 4 we're going to go to the 6. 3, 6. Simple. Yeah. Let's try that again. So just a little bit movement, nothing crazy happening here. All right. Let's go to the 6, 2, 5. We're resolving on the 5. Using the 2 to resolve on the 5. 5. We're going to go to the 1 to resolve to the 4. Let's try that again. We're going to let's do an octave. Yeah. Okay, so you kind of understand the theory, I guess, and the application of it. All we're doing is we're just playing through notes, using the circle of fifths to create a little bit of movement. When you would probably do this is probably definitely. I'm not saying this is how you should play this song, because Steve is gonna kill me. Yeah, so yeah, excuse me, but all like say for instance, when the speaker is talking and there's some time in between where where you're just chilling with the band and there's a little bit of a vibe going on that requires a little bit more movement. You can use this idea to create movement basically in the music, as a bass player for sure. And yeah, definitely, so let's mess around with it some more, and and yeah, and that'll be understanding the circle of fifths or the cycle of fourths and how to use it in our music today. Okay. Don't do that. Don't do that. Steve's gonna kill you. All right, guys, enjoy. See you guys later.